let's not worry too much about that for the moment, because just for those of you that are interested, the rest of the classes, Class B is being led by Jimmy Richards with the JPS BMW, and Class C is being won by Bob Holden, despite the fact that he has yet to overtake the two Toyotas which have crashed at the top of the mountain.
Yes, but still, Bobby Holden has been a regular here at Mount Panorama for over 2 decades. He's been on the winners rostrum here too. I tell you what, the fans, it mightn't have been the best year for Peter Brock, and there are those who would like to take him apart in print. Is Peter Brock finished? Listen to the crowd on the top of Mount Panorama. He is the hero here today.
Well, the sort of performance he's turning in now, it's pretty obvious why, because he's hurling this car around, and I would say that he is probably lapping now faster than anybody else. I'm going to put a watch on him, and we'll actually get a lap time on Peter Brock and just see what he's doing. The conditions far from good, and we'll have to stay with him, obviously, but we'll find a place and take a time.
How well does he control that car? Ooh. Coming out of the Forest elbow there onto the straight, it got a bit sideways on him, but how well does he control that car? Car control is absolutely magnificent. He might have been down this season, but he's proving now he's certainly not out.
No, Brock is never out, and anybody that counts him out before the checkered flag has fallen as a fool. He's proved that so many times before. Of course, several years ago here, when it was not necessary to nominate 3 drivers for the car, there was a controversial incident in which Brock's 05 Commodore was put out of business, and he in fact did step into the second dealer team car, much to the chagrin and protests of other drivers who claimed he couldn't do it. But the rule was there in the books, buried somewhere, and Brock knew about it and took advantage of it and won the race.
Well, from what I know of the rules, there's nothing to stop him driving the car and taking taking the kudos, rightly so too, for wherever it may finish. But the only thing is, he wouldn't be able to score points in any championship.
Peter Brock in 3rd position on the track, a couple of laps down on the leading Eggenberger pair, but a couple of laps down doesn't mean an awful lot in the circumstances we've had here so far today. Still 16 laps remaining in the great race for 1987.
We've got a watch on him, and he's got a fair way to go before we actually get a time. It'll be interesting to see what that time is in these conditions, comparatively also to the Sierras, because they suffer in this sort of weather.
That blue about the fuel, and the Texaco Sierra team is hotting up in the pits apparently. We're going to hear a lot more about that. Peter Brock across the top of the mountain. Every time he goes by, listen to them cheer. They know where he's placed. 3rd position.
Ooh. 3rd position behind 2 suspect Sierras, possibly going for his 9th win.
And he's just hurling it round. I mean, this is some of the most spectacular motoring. It doesn't matter where you go, anywhere in the world, you won't see anybody driving on the limit quite like Brock is now. So absolutely neatly in these conditions, he is superb to watch.
Listen to the race fans on the hill too. Rocky floats it out near the wall at Toledo Tooled. Now down beneath the GIO bridge, Conrod Straight.
Past the Kiwi Nissan, which doesn't look to be travelling in too straight a line at the moment.
No, it's not, but it's still there.
Oh, geez, look at him go.
He loves this.
On the limit in marginal conditions. But he can see the opportunity here to put the boot into a lot of critics here today. Back to Caltech's chase. And handles it beautifully despite the wet surface and despite the mud and the slush that's on the track. The oil, the grit, the rubber that's peeled off tyres as the race is unfolded today. Past the start-finish line comes Peter Brock, and just out of interest's sake, we'll run a check on the time.
There's
And that time, 2:43.32. 2:43.32. That's an unofficial one, but that's quick in these conditions.
Under these circumstances, sensational for Peter Brock in the James Hardie 1000.
When this race took a whole new direction, we had the incidents on top of the mountain. Might be timely to just have another look at what actually triggered off the second visit of the pace car. I'll show you these in normal speed. That's the first Toyota going in, and how hard did they hit? Bang goes Bauquet, straight across the road. Then everyone was trying to take evasive action, including Juan Manuel Fangio. And Johnny Cecotto, how hard did he hit the wall? West End bend. Here's Fangio, clips the back of it, just misses the other one, but pulls it up, gets a little ding in the door from the Starion. That's how it all happened and the speed it happened at.
Now, this is the drama down in the pits where samples are being taken from the Eggenberger Texaco team's fuel supply. As we heard Neil Crompton before, they've already run a check and found what apparently is an irregularity. We're pursuing that. We'll find out more shortly. We just saw the two Toyotas, cars 90 and 91, take themselves out of business, Drew Price and Mike Quinn, in those atrocious conditions. And what happens now, that has elevated car 93 to the leadership of the 1600cc class. Bob Holden, winner here in 1966 when he drove a Mini Cooper S with Renard Altonen, is co-driving this car here today with Gary Wilmington, who's more used to throwing a big old jag around the track, and also Brian Bate. The three of them have done a fantastic job, and they are still out there at the end of the day, and I guess that's what counts.
It's interesting to note, actually, that he's some, 8 laps down still on the two Toyotas that you saw crashing at the top of the mountain earlier on. And although he can't run any longer, he effectively still doesn't lead that class.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Surely does, and that's what endurance racing is all about. And one car that's suffered a fair amount in this endurance race now is 34, just ahead of him.
Yeah, good job, Holden, Wilmington, and Bate. Obviously, they're not out here to compete with the Sierras or the Commodores or the BMWs or the Nissans. They're really running a race within a race.
That's right. They're running in the up to 1600cc class with a little Toyota, and it's really been a very sensible, steady job. You know, when it comes to a race like this, it is a survival of the fittest. It's a bit of a tortoise and a hare situation, and in the past the Sierras have suffered from that, of course, because they've been the hares, but unfortunately they haven't been able to last. Now with the new homologation package, as one just went flying past the car then, with the new homologation package, the Sierras have been much more reliable. And they've not had to worry so much about the tortoises. But Bob Holden is going to win his class, or looks as though he's going to win his class, shall we say, with his teammates Gary Wilmington and Brian Bate.
In the under 2.5 litre category, which takes in, of course, the BMWs, Jim Richards is the leader there because he's in 6th position outright in the 44 JPS BMW, leading the under 2.5 litre class, and second in that category is Johnny Cecotto in the 42 BMW entry.
And how wide a smile would there be on Frank Gardner's face to have had 6 Works BMW entries come over from the factory all the way from Europe to win Class B of this race, and then to go and fail like that and be beaten by the locals, and fair and square too.
Yeah, and Richards, I might point out, is a lap up on Cecotto anyway, so things are looking pretty safe, provided nothing untoward happens between now and the end of the race, which is 14 laps away.
Well, that car, of course, had a fairly hefty cloud against the wall. The car that's running second in that class, the Johnny Cecotto Gianfranco Brancatelli car.
Bob Holden circulates uneventfully, and without too much doubt will take out that 1600cc category here at Mount Panorama this afternoon. I noticed the John Giddings Bruce Stewart car just in behind. They've had a few misadventures today, of course, as did their teammate Andrew Meidecke, but at least they're still out there and running. And up running at the head of the pack is Steve Soper still in the Texaco Sierra, followed by teammate Klaus Ludwig in second spot. 2 laps down now on the race leader. Peter Brock in the number 10 Mobile Dealer Team Commodore in third place. Glenn Seton in the first of the Nissans holding down fourth, followed by teammate George Fury in fifth spot. Sixth place goes to Jim Richards, head of the 2.5 litre class as well. Then Johnny Cicotto in seventh in the BMW entry. Gary Scott in the Mitsubishi also doing well with Akihiko Nakaya. Robbie Francevic and Ludwig Finnar in the second JPS car in ninth place, and Graham Moore and Michelle Delcourt heading for a top 10 finish in the James Hardie 1000. Just 11 laps left in the James Hardie 1000. The leader on screen, Steve Soper, car number 6.
Yes, indeed, and the Eggenberger cars at the moment, as we've already said, are running under a bit of a cloud, but let's leave things as they are for the moment. That car in the lead, well and truly at the moment, by some 2 laps. And it's been a remarkable performance by Pierre Dieudonné. Was saying earlier on that the handling wasn't quite right on it after he clipped a slower car. But it was Andrew Meidecke's car, I think, that he clipped. And look at Soper's car control there as he comes out of BP cutting and sets off across the top of the mountain. Coming up now to put another lap on car number 39, the Steve Reed, Trevor Ashby, Lansvale Smash Repairs car. And if you look at the rear of that, the team sponsor will have been doing some work on that, I should think, because that's had a fair smash in the back. Straight past it he goes.
Yes, Steve all stoked up still. He's still lapping quite quickly. But having quite a job at the moment to keep this car running in a straight line. The cars started off this season with the Sierra without, of course, some of the advantages they've got now. They've got some different aerodynamics the way they started off.
The way the season's gone for them so far, at the start of the season, they didn't even make the race. They were thrown out before they even started in the race for having illegal fuel injection system on the car. That was put right for the second race of the championship, but the results haven't really been or weren't really forthcoming until mid-season, and they won the Zolder European Touring Car race. Then it was off to the Nürburgring 24-hour Classic. They walked that, and they notched up, I think, 2 or 3 wins this year. It's been a remarkable performance. It really has, and now these cars really are running on song, and very quickly too. Steve Soper, the man who's had 107 race wins in his career, who's been British champion in various forms of tin tops in mini racing and metro racing 7 times, and he's had 3 pole positions in the World Touring Car Championship this year, so that gives you some idea.
Car 14, the Netcom Nissan, and let's take a look at the Netcom computer readout that gives us the details, the computerized readout of what happens in this car. Neil Crompton is with us in the pit studio. Neil?
Yes, it's quite interesting, really, Wilco. What we've got is a complete readout of what's going on inside the motor vehicle. Details including speed, much reduced speed on Mount Panorama at the moment, revolutions per minute, and tyre temperatures, which will obviously be reducing quite considerably at the moment. And then you notice in the middle, bottom of frame, an accelerometer, which gives the viewers at home an incredible indication of the G-forces that go through one of these race cars on a circuit such as Mount Panorama. And then across to the right-hand side, we have turbo boost, and then turbo wastegate temperature, and of course the gear selection pattern up there on the top right. So by using this kind of information provided by our 7 race cam engineers and also by the marvellous Netcom organisation, you can literally analyse what the motor car is doing. And of course, as Dennis Hawley suggested a little bit earlier in the weekend when we were talking to him, it's the perfect way to learn how to set up your motor car. You can get instant readings from each corner of the car, which tells you whether your suspension's working or not. You get an instant idea of whether your car is reaching full boost. And that's the kind of information that, for example,
Fred Gibson and his team have worked on with a company called Electromotive in the USA, who, through their computer systems, have been able to come up with information that is printed out of the computer after it stops.
Neil,
this system does it live.
One of the non-technical things about what it's monitoring on the car is the G-forces on the drivers. It's absolutely amazing. It's almost like stunt flying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's widely misunderstood, Wilco. These cars look like our street sedans, if you like, and whilst our coverage of this race, I believe, is sensational, it still doesn't drive home the fact that these cars really fling around. I mean, if it were possible to take every viewer for a ride, I'm sure that it would absolutely blow everybody away. The cars lurch under brakes. The strain is amazing. And if I may self-indulge just briefly, when you get out of these cars, you're literally bruised right across the top of your shoulders, right over your rib cage. You're all bruised and knocked around. You certainly are flung around more in these cars than people imagine.
Murray Carter and Steve Masterton driving the Nitcom Nissan this afternoon in the great race. And again, they are one of those teams that have kept out of trouble this afternoon. They're in 18th position at the present time. They're a lot of laps down on the front runners, 14 laps down, in fact, but they're still alive and well.
And as we've said so many times, endurance racing is all about finishing.
Yeah, it's interesting to note also the difference in the gravity force because it's wet, and also the difference in the tyre temperatures. The actual wet tyres are running hotter.
Let's check them out on the Castrol scoreboard for you at home. Steve Soper and Pierre Dieudonné continue to lead from the Ludwig-Niedwitz combination. Third, Brock, Crook, McLeod. Fourth place, Glenn Seton and John Bowe. Fifth spot, George Fury and Terry Shield. In sixth, car number 44, Jimmy Richards and Tony Longhurst. They're down 5 laps. 42, Chicotto and Brancatelli are down 6 and 7th spot. Scott and Nakaya and the Mitsubishi are down 7 laps in 8th spot. Francovic and Finau down 7 in 9th spot. And rounding out the 10, Graham Moore and Michelle Delcourt and the Holden, and they're 9 laps in arrears. Lap 154 of 161 and the James Hardie 1000 coming to you from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. And of course, the man who drives car number 7, running second on the road at the moment, is Klaus Ludwig. Hardie's heroes for 1987 and one of the most talented open-wheeler and hardtop drivers in the world today.
At 38, Klaus Ludwig is one of the fatherland's most experienced racers. A long-time supporter of Henry's mark, he really came to prominence in the German Super Cup Series, racing Zack-Speed Escorts and Capris. A short spell in America with Ford's prototype IMSA car brought little success, but the Germans' involvement with the Le Mans 24-hour race has been quite the reverse. Victory over the factory Porsche teams in both 84 and 85 put him in a class of his own. Ludwig's reputation and endurance racing made him an obvious choice for Rudi Eggenberger's Ford team in 86. And although results were lacking, both car and driver showed that in 87 they'd be a driving force. Their most encouraging race this season was the Belgian Spa 24-hour Classic, where the car led for over 3/4 of the race. Today's event is only 1,000 kilometres, and Klaus Ludwig believes that he's right to be aboard a Ford.
You're right there, Richard Hay, and there he is aboard his Ford, the Texaco Sierra, coming down to Caltex Chase.
We were talking earlier about the pace car situation. It cost him the 1986 Le Mans 24-hour race and the hat-trick there because it was a very serious accident. They had to run behind the pace car for 2.5 hours. That wrecked the turbochargers on the Porsche. It wasn't a works Porsche that he was driving, and that was his race as far as he was concerned.
There's the Petrotech entry. Peter Jansen driving the car this afternoon. The car is in for a pit stop. It's been sitting there for quite a spell.
Was running 17th on the race.
It looks to me as if it's had a shunt up the front end because the bonnet appeared to be bent. And I'm wondering whether or not he made an off-course excursion and came to the pits as a result of that.
There aren't too many cars left in this race that haven't had a shunt one end or the other.
It's quite so. Heading up to Bridgestone Corner. Sweeping out of there up Motorcraft Hill yet again. Larry Perkins' car still sitting off there to the left.
He wasn't not a happy chap when I spoke to him earlier on, and Denny Holm wasn't too pleased about it all either.
Klaus Ludwig, that's tight. As he went beneath the West End Bridge. That's the Golson BMW 635 that just held him up temporarily. Sweeps across the top of Mount Panorama. That's where the race fans have been drenched here. Some of them have moved to the bottom part of the mountain.
I guess it's a sign of the times that the James Hardie this year, we've had 4 different leaders, but they've all been on Ford Sierra Cosworths.
It's true. Dropping down through the S's now to the Dipper. And still, race leader Steve Soper from Klaus Ludwig. Third spot, you know who, Peter Brock. Glenn Seton is fourth. They're the positions as the laps wind down for the great race, 87 edition. Brocky sits in the car. The crowd along pit straight already giving him a huge cheer as he pulled in. Let's go to Neil Crompton.
Well, Brock's just given me the thumbs up. It's the usual confident, happy and positive Peter Brock who's in the car at the moment. He's gone at the time of about 25 seconds and he is gassing in the Commodore. He's put slick tyres on. He's in third position. The drama continues with the Texaco Ford Sierras. Victory number 9 could be on the way.
Thank you, Neil Crompton. Come to think of it, Neil, you were the man that had to bail for the ride in this car at Bathurst, as I recall.
It has crossed my mind.
That's right, our ace pit commentator, Crompton, who joined Peter Brock's team and finished so well at Sandown, was earmarked for a ride in this car at Bathurst, but because of the FIA regulations, that has to be postponed until next weekend at Calder. 5 laps remain. James Hardie, 1987. Look at Brock.
Oh, would he regret putting slicks on?
Yeah, I think he's made a slight misjudgment there because the track is still very greasy, very slippery offline.
It does have
and
a very
I think he could get himself into great problems if he doesn't watch it.
Well, he's got to get heat into the tyres first of all. Look at it skating out of here. Sort of thing you'd hope to see on the clay somewhere.
You know all about that, Mike.
Phil Christensen joins us. Phil, I've seen Brock come from behind in the past and win here against all the odds. Do you think it could be on the cards again, depending on what happens up front?
It's a great tribute to the champion of this man. Peter Brock has been put down by quite a few people in many quarters all season. And just listen to the race fans showing their vote to Brocky as he goes over the hill.
We've got the little BMW trying to give him a terrible time. Down through the S's now to the Dipper. That's all fine. Brock just trying very, very carefully to stay on the only dry line. Look how narrow it is.
That's young Gary Brabham behind him.
Yeah, Brock will float it through here, see if he gets it a bit of opposite lock as he comes out. The dry line's out there, fortunately. Now, he should be able to run away from Brabham down the straight beneath the GIO bridge. And Brock really giving the Mobile Commodore what for as he heads down to Caltex Chase. A remarkable performance. Down into the chase, left-hander. Skates a little over the road, but the dry line is on the inside. Gets a tailie coming out of there. We also have the 42 BMW coming into the pit area. Was in 7th place. He's got a flat tyre in the pits. As you can see, tyre flat. Very quick pit stop though. And off it goes. Okay, this great scrap continues. Here's the BMW, the Fangio, Brabham, and here's Brocky.
Yeah, that was quite funny because the BMW got past him and Brocky immediately decided he got the power and moved out right in front of the Sierra.
And the BMW is going to nip and tuck here on the inside, but he has to give way to that and see what happens going up the hill. Brocky sideways comes out of Motorcraft.
Don't think Steve Soper was too impressed by all that.
There's no doubt that Brocky has been 1 or 2 laps premature and he switched back to slicks, but there is a dry line that keeps increasing. It's widening all the time, and while he's at odds at the moment with the track and the conditions and also the competition around him, the last 2 or 3 laps, which are coming up on us very rapidly, are going to be in his favour.
Coming up on the Oxo Supercube Sierra. Brock floats it down beneath the Nissan Bridge. They drop over the top, coming down to Forest Elbow. And Brock has been able to hold the bimmer there. It's some real horsepower unleashes itself now. Conrod straight once again. Here's Brocky on the dry strip of road. Here he comes down to Caltech's chase again. There's 1 or 2 slower cars now under braking in the chase area, the left-hander. Will have to try and hold the inside line coming down here, which will be hard on the brakes as the bimmer slips down on the inside. We'll see. Hope it doesn't lock up its brakes. Here are the placings at the moment on the Castrol scoreboard. Soper and Giudoni lead it in the Ford. 2 laps behind them, the second Sierra Ford of Ludwig and Needsvits. Then Peter Brock, Parsons, McLeod in third. Seton and Bowe run in fourth for Peter Jackson Nissen. And 5th spot, Fury and Terry Shield. Ready to congratulate Rudy. Rudy doesn't smile all that much. But Steve Soper, who came here a few years ago, tried to conquer the mountain. He's had a tremendous year, and this will certainly cap a great 87 for the likeable young Brit, Steve Soper.
35-year-old Steve Soper is one of 4 Britons in today's great race, and the popular pick with the bookies. A former works driver with Austin Rovers' Hepalite-sponsored team, young Steve tasted victory in the British Tourist Trophy Classic at Silverstone in 1983. For 85, he re-signed with Tom Walkinshaw's Bastos Rovers for a full-scale attack on the European Championship. The title was a 2-way fight between Rover and Volvo from round 1 to the finish. The driver's title going to Lindstrom with the Volvo, the manufacturer's crown to Rover. Soper joined Rudy Eggenberger's Ford team last year and gave the Turbo 4 its first taste of victory at the season finale at Estoril. This year, the cars have been more competitive thanks to the Cosworth package and the Evolution RS 500. Ford is back at the Bathurst Mountain this weekend with more guns than Navarone, and Steve Soper is just one of them.
And boy, hasn't he been firing here today at Mount Panorama. Steve Soper, lap it a bit. Away from taking the checkered flag, should take the last lap board the next time around. He heads out of Toledo Tools' turn, now down beneath the GIO bridge to Conrod Straight. And holding a 2-lap advantage over his teammate, Klaus Ludwig, who sat on pole for this race. 2 laps further back, Peter Brock. And right behind Brock is both Glenn Seton in the 15 car, and then 1 lap astray, George Fury in car number 30.
You can see the way Soper's trying to stick on the wet line all the time. Those tyres will be overheating now. And Steve will be looking for a way to keep them cool, stay on the water and stop them from going bang, basically. Any problems in that direction at this stage of the race really wouldn't be wanted.
A few minutes ago, in fact, we saw Rudy Eggenberger talking to the Pirelli tyre man just about that question, and Steve will be well aware of the situation.
Here's the last lap board now for young Briton Steve Soper as he takes out on the last lap around Mount Panorama for the James Hardie 1000, 1987. Still a 2-lap advantage over teammate Klaus Ludwig. There has been some controversy regarding the cars, as reported by Neil Crompton from the pits today. One of the BMWs coming up, taking advantage as Soper will not make a mistake. And looming in the different background, of course, is Peter Brock. And it does really seem ironic that it's been absolutely 10 years to today since last Ford gained a 1-2 here at Mount Panorama. A decade later, the Eggenberger cars are going to do it this weekend. To the top of Mount Panorama, heading up to West End Bend for the final time. Brocky pulls one lap back as he gets out of the way. Coming up to the fans on top of Mount Panorama. He sweeps through, coming down to the Castrol sand trap. Great moment for Steve Soper. There are the fans giving him a tremendous cheer as Soper sweeps across. Heads down to the right-hander, down to the S's.
And despite the fact that he's had such an enviable track record in racing, young Steve Soper's he's had 2 seconds and 2/3 in World Touring Car this year, but this will be his first win in World Touring Car Championship.
There'll be a lot of his old friends in Australia be pleased to know that he picked Mount Panorama Bathurst to do it. Steve Soper takes his time, certainly does. Form finish 1-2 maybe. I think it's all been done before.
Not much.
Conrad straight for the final time. Rudy Eggenberger, the crew, the tyre experts all huddle around as the young British star comes down towards Caltech's chase for the final time. Down to the left-hander. Soper swings it back as a look over the shoulder. Heads down to Bridgestone Bridge for the final time. And the World Touring Car Championship for 1987 has arrived at Bathurst this weekend. The 1987 James Hardie 1000 will go to Steve Soper of Great Britain in the Texaco Ford Sierra, and he takes the checkered flag. Second place will officially go to his teammate Klaus Ludwig, who will be 2 laps down in the number 7 Eggenberger Ford Texaco Sierra. And third place will go to Australia's Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. Great scenes here at Bathurst as the team now awaits the arrival of Klaus Ludwig, the runner-up in the race. And of course, a special cheer being reserved for Peter Brock, who's done a great job taking over the number 10 car with David Parsons, John Crook and Peter McLeod to pick up third and be the first Australians home. Pierre Dudonné shakes hands, a hug with Rudy Eggenberger. They've done it, a 1-2, that's what they came for. The cars go straight back to the scrutineering bay, where they'll be impounded and tech checked. Celebrations continue meanwhile.
Klaus Niedzwitz there preserves his lead in the World Touring Car Championship, along with teammate Klaus Ludwig, who comes through to finish second, of course.
There's Klaus Ludwig returning to the pits. And of course, Peter Brock just finishing back in third. A great race full of drama here at Mount Panorama. The 87 James Hardie 1000, a Ford 1-2. Brock into third spot. Fourth place going to Glenn Seton. Fifth place to Georgie Fury. Sixth place to Jimmy Richards. Cars all disappearing into the scrutineering shed.
And wouldn't it be a shame if this race were to be settled in the scrutineering bay or in the courtrooms of Paris afterwards?
Well, I don't know. That's not really for us to determine. There's been plenty of controversy here today. But at least we have new victors here at Mount Panorama. And all the Brock fans waiting for Peter Perfect to come across the line. And he does just that. What a reception. So Brocky will pick up 3rd place in the James Hardie 8 times winner. He'd be happy, I would think, with 3rd home today. That may improve at some other time. If all the people are predicting to be correct, in fact happens. Let's not take anything away from the very professional presentation of the Texaco Sierras. Just repeating, Steve Soper, the race winner. Klaus Ludwig takes 2nd, a 1-2 for Eggenberger, and Brocky takes 3rd, and we'll be back for the presentation shortly.
I think that as far as Calder's concerned, they stand a very good chance. As far as New Zealand's concerned, I think that you'd be looking probably at the M3 BMW there. I think that car stands a very good chance there on the tight, narrow twists and turns of the street circuit.
Well, we saw a race of a difference here today. It's been an event that probably over the years has been dominated by Commodore and by Peter Brock. And people for some years wanted someone else to win the race. They've found it today, but Brock's back as the hero again.
Yeah, I don't think you can take anything away from Peter Brock, but don't forget, of course, he's had 2 co-drivers with him today, Peter McLeod and David Parsons, and they too have done a fair share of the driving. The same is true, of course, of the 2 Eggenberger cars. You know, it's very much a team effort, this sort of racing. You've got Klaus Ludwig and Klaus Niedzwitz, who finished 2nd, and Pierre Dieudonné and Steve Soper, who won their first ever World Touring Car Championship race. They've always had to play 2nd fiddle to the 2 Germans who are leading the World Touring Car Championship at the moment. What
would be going through the mind of Peter Floor, the BMW Motorsport manager, who came here with 6 cars and now has to try and find 2 or 3 to take to Calder next weekend?
I don't know what would be going through his mind, but I should think he's going to go home and have a quiet cry over a bottle of scotch or something tonight. They've lost, what, all 5, well, 5 of the 6 cars certainly have been fairly heavily damaged this weekend, and that's no good thing as far as the BMW team are concerned.
Ron Meacham from BMW Australia was telling me they're flying in another car for Calder next weekend to try and replenish stock.
Yeah, that's for a couple of German princes, I think.
Yes.
They've got a couple of extra drivers coming out for that race, and I would think Frank Gardner will be having some BMW personnel coming to knock on his door and ask how many spare body shells he's got and things like that over the next week or so.
You might be right. The impressions of the race and the dramas that unfolded during the day.
I think it's great that we had the change in the weather. It's just a shame that it didn't happen earlier on, which might possibly have given the little BMWs a bit more of a chance, and also eased the diff problem that Grice had as well. I feel so sorry for that team, because they were there or thereabouts, and with the pace car situation, they could have made it.
Is the Commodore in its present homologation trim a spent force against the Sierras, the turbo cars, and the lightweight M3s?
It's certainly not a spent force. But I wouldn't say that it's as competitive a proposition as it would have been, say, last year. They've got the power, but they've got the problem they have is the weight that they have to carry.
Well, to the victors go the spoils. Steve Soper is the 1987 James Hardie 1000 winner. And to introduce the presentation ceremony, it's over to Garry Rogers.
Well, you can't argue the fact that it was a sensational race. We're going to get the winners out here right now. It's a long time since we've had a Ford 1-2 at Mount Panorama, but we had it today. The leading car, the number 6, Eggenberger Texaco Sierra, driven by Steve Soper and Pierre Dieudonné. Steve Soper and Pierre Dieudonné, the winners of the great race. The chairman of the James Hardie Industries, Mr. John Reid, about to present the trophy. Okay, just a moment and you'll get Brock. But first of all, I think due congratulations to Steve Soper and Pierre Dieudonné, outright winners in the 1987 James Hardie 1000. And he's broken the cork, Pierre. You'd think a good Belgian like him would know how to get the cork out of a bottle of champagne. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of James Hardie Industries, Mr. John Reid. Excuse me, are you going to give him a fair go? Up with the trophy. The guys at the back want the photograph. Steve Soper from Great Britain and Pierre Dieudonné from Belgium, winners of the great race for 1987. A 1-2 Ford finish. The Eggenberger Texaco Sierras have survived the dramas, the wet weather dramas, the huge attrition rate here at Mount Panorama in 1987 to take a splendid victory. I don't know whether the people at trackside are going to be quiet long enough, Steve, to let us talk to you, but certainly our Channel 7 viewers around Australia and throughout the world want to hear what you had to say. It was a phenomenal victory in extraordinary circumstances. The attrition rate was unbelievable and the weather was just atrocious.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank very much Eggenberger for producing a fantastic car, excellent reliability. The car ran absolutely perfect from start to finish. And for Ford for employing me and being able to win this race. Thank you.
Cheers. Steve Soper. Now Pierre Dieudonné's got the cork out at last. He certainly had no trouble pulling the cork out on Mount Panorama today in his Eggenberger Texaco Sierra. Pierre, it must be a fantastic thrill to come here for the first time and to win such a great race.
Yes, it's really great because Bathurst is well known all over the world, and I had an ambition to come here and win it for the first time. I think it's great, and I'm very happy for the team. I'm very happy for Ford, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Thank you. Congratulations. Steve Soper and Pierre Dieudonné, the great race winners. And as I said, obviously you can see from the Ford flag flying here, it was a Ford 1-2 finish, and it's time now to congratulate the second place getters, Klaus Ludwig and Klaus Niedzwitz. Festival Queen, Michelle Shepherd, planting the first rewards on Klaus Niedzwitz. Congratulations. First, Klaus Niedzwitz, if we can have a word with you. I think you set the fastest time in the race today, but as the day went on, times were not important. Surviving was important.
Yeah, I was the fastest today, but I was not the winner. But it doesn't matter. It is very good for Steve Soper. He did a good job, and we come first and second, and I'm happy to be here.
Congratulations. Klaus Ludwig, of course, this being round 8 of the World Touring Car Championship, your second place here today with Klaus Niedzwitz protects your lead in the World Series.
Yeah, now we have a big lead, and maybe we're going to make it now. I don't know.
What do you think of our race now? Do you think you might be tempted to come back?
Yeah, it's a great crowd. Good people here. We all love you. Wonderful.
Klaus Ludwig, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you asked for it. The Texaco Sierra's 1-2, but you asked for the man. You asked for him. It's Peter Brock. Peter Brock, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to say that he drove the entire race, but particularly the closing laps of this race, like a demon. You were a man out there with a purpose today, Peter Brock.
Yeah, I had a bit of a mission. I thought I'd like to show people that that mobile HTT is certainly not a spent force in racing, and that we could put a pretty good car together. We had a bit of bad luck with our first car today, and Dave Parsons and I were very thankful for Peter McLeod for having done such a great job in the first part of the race, because when we got in it, I'll tell you what, I gave it absolute heaps, particularly in the wet there in the finish, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself, I might add, and thanks for all your support out there too. I love the way you're cheering me on.
Peter Brock, ladies and gentlemen, Peter McLeod and David Parsons, a fantastic effort to take third position outright in the great race today here at Mount Panorama. Sensational scenes here. pit straight, jam-packed, to congratulate the outright winners, second place getter and third place getter after the great race of 1987. Let's take a break.
What a sensational finish to this afternoon's 1987 James Hardie 1000, not only for Steve Soper and Klaus Ludwig, but what a hero's reception for Peter Brock. So many people had him as a zero going into today's race. Probably published a book about him. Brock's had the last laugh here at Mount Panorama, make no doubt about that. He is the real hero of Australians with a tremendous drive back through the field. Steve Rabillet has been putting together the highlights of the great race 87, so settle back and relax, and we'll return after the finish again. And welcome back after the highlights package of the best of James Hardie for 1987. It's been quite an extraordinary race, with Allan Grice and Win Percy looking so certain of at least a top three finish so early. But it didn't pan out for them. Actually, the weekend didn't pan out for them, or for a number of other competitors. And we've assembled just a highlights package of, you've seen the highlights of the past 6.5, 8 hours. We're going to show you some of the lowlights as well for the past 4 days here at Mount Panorama. All started with Win Percy. Car number 2, the Chickadee Chicken Commodore. Anyone for Stuffed Chook. Peter McLeod bunkered the Commodore. Colin Bond was hot.
What a race it was, the James Hardie 1000 for 1987. They'll be talking about it for a long, long time to come. The 1-2 forward finish, the spectacular action on the circuit that took out cars like Dick Johnson, like Neville Crichton, like Larry Perkins, like Allan Grice. It was a race of attrition, as it always is, but there were a lot of other elements added this year. The weather, not the least, that turned it into total mayhem out there. But the Eggenberger Texaco Sierras won the day. Steve Soper and Pierre Dieudonné took the checkered flag for the great race of 87. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage on the 7 Network.